Hey guys, I'm going to try to explain about the flesh and the spirit and the law and the Holy Spirit and what it was for, what it was for, Jesus, the gospel, all this stuff, and the difference in the flesh, the secret to why people are evil and what they do, the difference between the flesh and the spirit. All right, all flesh ends in the same grave, right? It'll all end in the same place. Does that mean that God's unrighteous? Why would it all end in the same place if some flesh was holier than other flesh? Some people think it's a sin to have a beard, but then they'll tell you not to have long hair because you look like a girl, right? Well, God naturally gave you a beard, right? So why do you think it's a sin to have a beard? You see what I'm saying? All flesh, your flesh and my flesh, it all came from one place. The exact same sperm, the same seed, it all came from the same thing. There is no difference in my flesh and your flesh or their flesh. We all have the same desires, the same needs, the same wants. All flesh is the same flesh. That's why we all end in the exact same grave, and we all go back to the same earth that still has poisonous plants and spiders and snakes and tornadoes and disasters and everything else, right? It's not a perfect earth. We don't have perfect flesh. All right, you can't have perfect flesh because perfect flesh would live forever. All right. Now, what Jesus was for, think about this. Jesus came and his flesh died, okay? And his blood covered all flesh. His spirit never died, so he didn't forgive the spirits of men. But his flesh died so that your flesh doesn't weigh in the balance anymore after 70 AD. Jesus came, died, he sent the Holy Spirit, and you had to believe in him until the law was fulfilled. The Holy Spirit was a spirit that put the law of God into them so that they could overcome their flesh until it was all fulfilled, until the law was fulfilled, until Christ returned. Now, after that's done, you don't have to overcome your flesh. We're not under the law. We're not under the sin covenant where we can transgress in the flesh. And what causes people to do evil today is lying to themselves. They say that their flesh is holier than yours. No, you can't murder somebody else whenever you feel that all the flesh is the same. You're not going to kill somebody unless you feel like you're better than them or something fleshly makes you do it, jealousy or something, or which is because you want to be better than somebody else, right? All the evil in this world, the lying, comes because you don't want people to know what your desires are. Lying comes from somebody trying to hide their flesh. They try to say, well, I don't do that, or I'm better, or this, that, or the other. You cannot steal from somebody else unless you think your flesh is better than their flesh. The only thing that causes spiritual evil are things like murder, whenever you take from somebody else, all right? Rape, molestation, lying, cheating, stealing. These things are spiritually evil, okay? Now remember, after Jesus came, what was it all about? He said, believe in me, receive the Holy Spirit, so that you can overcome the flesh, so that you can enter heaven. And those who didn't believe, those Pharisees and such who thought that their flesh was holy and thought it was by their own works and their own power, they were not going to enter the kingdom of heaven. It was all about some being saved and some being lost. So even though Jesus shed his blood, not every single person made it into heaven. Because what happened was the blood, try to pour blood onto a spirit. It'll go right through the spirit, okay? The blood covers the earth, and our bodies are made from the earth, and our bodies go back to the earth. All right, the blood covered the earth. It didn't cover our spirits. That's why, even though the blood covered everybody, some people would not accept it. In other words, they still wanted to hold on to, I need to wash my hands before I eat. I shouldn't eat meat. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. I need to be holy in my flesh instead of accepting Christ. This was in that time frame whenever the Holy Spirit was given from the time that Jesus died until the time he returned in 70 AD, they still had to keep the law. This is what the Holy Spirit was for. Put the law in them until the law was fulfilled. So, because God doesn't tolerate, he doesn't tolerate evil. He never has. He cannot actually tolerate evil. Light and darkness cannot mix. All right? You have to shut the light off to get the darkness. It can't mix. So this is why nobody made it into the kingdom, into heaven, until Jesus came and shed his blood and then came back and fulfilled the law and the prophets. They didn't go to heaven whenever he shed his blood, all right? This was just to cover everybody's flesh. People went to heaven once the old covenant and Adam were fulfilled. And that was in 70 AD, whenever he destroyed the temple that housed the scriptures. This is very simple. It's very simple to understand that Jesus already returned and destroyed the law in the old covenant. He said he came to fulfill the law and the prophets, and he said that generation would not pass until all those things were fulfilled, until he fulfilled the law and the prophets. The old heaven and the old earth passed away, but I don't remember what I was saying. Anyway, but it's not there. The temple that housed the scriptures isn't there, so we're not under the law. The Ark of the Covenant that had power in the first covenant doesn't exist. It held the 10 Commandments, the beginning of their law covenant. It doesn't exist. Jesus was the last man, Adam. We can't still be an Adam after the last man, Adam. So what I'm saying is, all the law and everything is fulfilled now. The Holy Spirit was the earnest of their inheritance until the redemption of the purchased possession. It wasn't something given for all ages and all time. It was poured out in the last days. This means there wasn't many days left. This is why everybody today who claims to have the Holy Spirit, they wind up lying, or they're in 40-something thousand different denominations. They all think that the Spirit tells them the truth, but they all believe something different, right? There's no way that's the Spirit of truth. They all lie. They all think that it's the Holy Spirit telling them, but it's not. So all that stuff's done. That's the way it was. Whenever God made Adam and Eve and their flesh fell, all right, they were still good spirits, but all flesh, nobody could enter heaven because the flesh was still weighed in the balance. It still kept people out of heaven. Once Jesus fulfilled everything, the blood is over everybody. The law is finished, all right? So your flesh no longer matters. But what causes people to do the evil is when they think that their flesh matters. Having sex doesn't hurt anybody. What you eat doesn't hurt anybody. These things don't hurt anybody. You're going to die, all right? What you put into your body is not hurting anyone, all right? If two people have an agreement to have sex, nobody's hurt here. Now, where you do get hurt is if you start getting jealous, or you're envious, or it's all the things that you can't see. See, flesh things are like, you can see me talking to you. You can hear the words that I'm saying. But you don't really know what the intention of my heart is. You can guess, but it's not clear. It's not right there in front of you. You can't see intention. You can't see any jealousy, or you can't see if I'm wanting to lift myself up, or if I'm wanting to, or the reason that I'm making this video. You can't really see that. You can just guess, because spiritual things are things that you can't see. But here's the thing. Now, you don't have to know about Jesus or anything to live like I'm telling you, to not live like I'm telling you, but all right, you don't have to know about Jesus or anything for this to happen. But people in their hearts, because they will not tell the truth, whenever the truth is readily available for all of us to tell, tell the truth. Not everybody thinks truth is something that comes down from some cosmic home and lays out a doctrine for you or something. That's not truth, and that's not how you get truth. Truth is everyday life, simple things. Don't lie to the person you're in a relationship with. Don't hide the fact that you watched porn that day or something. Never lie. Don't lie about anything. Don't lie. Were you looking at that girl? Yeah, I was. Can't help it. I'm human, blah, blah, blah. Don't lie, Never tell lies to make yourself look better. Never tell lies in anything. Because if you can't not tell lies in the small things, there's no way that you can see the big picture, all right? How are you going to see the big truth if you can't even tell the truth, little truths throughout your day, So lie about nothing, and this is how you get to the truth. So what I'm saying is the truth is readily available for all people, but they press it down. They want their flesh to seem better. You should only have eyes for me. You should only love me. I'm the best one. I'm this, that, or the other, And this is the thing, the only thing that causes evil in the world is judging someone else's flesh, which is actually rejecting Jesus Christ and all that he did. Right? Now, we're not supposed to live for Jesus today. I'm not saying we run out and live for Jesus. Like I said, that was a 40-year period. But now that it's all over, we're rejecting all that God did through Christ whenever we are judging somebody else's flesh, because our flesh is the same. And that blood covered all the flesh. And then once it was done, Jesus delivered the kingdom back up to God. And now God doesn't see your flesh. He doesn't see your flesh anymore. This is also why, if you want to get healings and stuff, sure, you'll get that whenever you're living in the false Christianity of today. Because you're living in the spirit of Jesus, you care about the flesh. You don't want to die. And because you don't want to die, you'll do anything to stay alive, and you want these healings, and you send out 10,000 prayer chain people, people in a prayer chain, and spend all your money to try and stay alive. Whenever all you have to do now to be a good person, seriously, is not judge anybody else's flesh. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to know about Jesus or anything, but you just have to tell the truth. And if you do this, you won't judge somebody else's flesh, all right? You won't, were you looking at my girlfriend? Come on, man. How many people's girlfriends have you looked at? It's not a big deal. That's just the way it is. That doesn't hurt anyone. Your smoking, drinking, eating, all these things, what you wear, what you don't wear, sex, nudity, what you watch, what you don't watch, what you listen to, what you don't listen to, all these things, they don't hurt anyone. Everybody has these desires, but it's when you start thinking that you are better than somebody else. These are the only people that can commit murder and theft, and who can lie, and who can cheat, and who can steal. They want their own. They're better than you are. I hope I'm getting this out. I wish you could just read my heart and understand it the way that I understand it, because it's hard to put into words what I'm saying. But the part that I really want to drive home is that there is one thing that causes evil in the world today, just one. And it is a rejection of all that God did through Christ. We are no longer in Adam. The last Adam already came. All flesh has been forgiven. We can't sin or transgress the law. But whenever people go back to the law, back to Adam, back to Jesus Christ, who already finished his work, back to the time whenever the law was still in effect before Christ returned, this is what causes people to go to war, to kill, to steal. If your flesh is no better and you're not afraid of death because you understand, or just in your heart you know that you're just a good person, or if you know the history and you understand what Jesus actually accomplished, then you have no reason to kill to protect your own life. Why are you afraid of dying and going to be with God? There's no need for you to do any of these things to protect yourself and basically hate the other person. You can't steal from someone because they're just as important as you are. You can't kill somebody because you'd rather die. Why stay here where there's all this pain and everything whenever you know that all this doesn't matter? All right? So I hope I made that clear. I could probably talk about this for hours, and I'm repeating stuff, trying to make it more clear, and then also waiting so I can bring up other points, because I could write just a whole book just on this subject, because that's the problem with the religious today. They're judging you. They judge you whenever they want to do the same thing, and this is what God hates. The whole point in him sending Christ was to forgive Adam completely. Adam doesn't matter. God doesn't see Adam anymore. But then these people go back to Jesus, and they go back to Adam, and they go back to the law, and they're fucking judging everybody else for everything whenever there's no need. There is no need. All right? Don't let people judge you about your flesh. And don't judge anybody else or yourself in the flesh, all right? And you will not do anything spiritually evil. And spiritual evils were not covered in the blood. All right? It was the flesh that was covered in the blood. Jesus' spirit never died. So people's spirits still can be evil or good. But there is only one thing that causes them to either be evil or good. The acceptance that all flesh is the same flesh makes you have a good spirit. And you won't have any desire to kill, steal, murder, rape, molest, whatever. You'll have no desire to lie or anything because you know that the person sitting next to you, you don't have to hide from them. They might be hiding from you and lying to you, saying, oh, well, I'm not like that. Whenever they fucking know that you're like that. Yeah. I mean, you know that they're like that. They know you're like that. All right? Everybody knows that. And we're all the same. We'll all end in the same place. All came from the same dust. So if you will do that, don't judge anybody at all for their flesh, at all, for any reason, whether they have sex with 100 people a day, whether they just want one person, whether they want to eat this or drink that, whether they drink all the time, whether they do this. It doesn't matter. If you don't judge anybody's flesh, you will not do anything spiritually evil. And this is actually an acceptance of what Christ did, whether you know about Christ or not. You don't have to know, you don't have to hear the story, the gospel doesn't have to be preached anymore, but this is how God judges people post 70 AD, is by whether or not they in their heart tell the truth and don't judge the others and don't hate the others, or whether or not they in their heart do. And most people who in their heart do, they find some religion to back themselves up, either whether it be Muslim, Christian, whatever. They find a religion to back up the fact that they are better in the flesh than you. All right, guys, I hope you understood that. I'm actually going to watch it again before I post it because it's just a lot of information. I'm sure I missed a lot. I should have written down a thing to get all this out there. But I'm going to say it again, one more time. I know it's probably boring now. You're probably like, all right, man, why did I watch the last 5 minutes of this? But there's one thing and only one thing that causes any lies and evil in the whole world, and that is if you judge somebody else's flesh or your own flesh. If you accept that all flesh is the same, and you stop with the jealousy, envy, and judging and all that crap, stop thinking you're better or you have to be better, or what you eat or how you go to the bathroom matters, just don't worry about any of that, and you'll have no reason to do anything evil in the spirit. There's good people and there's evil people. That's all there is to it. You're not going to let your kid go off and stay with a child molester, you know? You wouldn't do that. You're not going to, oh, well, he's fine. We're all forgiven. All your flesh is forgiven. People can still be good or evil in their spirits, though.